You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that is honest, reveals the facts, truth, and statistics, and does not mess around. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313, and go to our website at MichiganSportsTruth.com. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Spreaker is also available on iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Also a subsidiary of Sports Radio Detroit, thus available on iTunes and Podbean. This podcast is particularly not for entertainment purposes, and the views expressed by the host of this podcast are opinion-based. However, they do not come without facts, research, statistics, and truth, whether other people like it or not, and no matter how harsh or complicated it may be. This is the Michigan Sports Truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
And welcome to the Michigan Sports Truth Football in the Mitten Preview on Spreaker. Taylor Phillips along with Frank Vajcner and Buck Geno here to help us preview the Michigan Wolverines and the Michigan State Spartans football teams in the year 2017. Plus we got Tigers coverage, live Tigers at Rangers at Globe Life Park. The Rangers lead the Tigers 5-3. They led 5-1. They started leading 5-1 in the bottom of the fourth. After a Nomar Mazara RBI single, a Joey Gallo 2-run home run, and a Mike Napoli solo home run. But the Tigers got 2 runs on an RBI ground out by Alex Presley, scoring Victor Martinez from third, of all people, and another RBI ground out from Jose Iglesias, scoring John Hicks. Jose Iglesias early in the game drove in the game's first run, scoring John Hicks with an RBI double in the top of the second. But Robinson Chirinos tied it up with a solo home run in the bottom of the third. So this one's going to get down to the wire, folks. But Frank Vajcner can be followed on Twitter at Frank_Vajcner. He is a co-host of Toledo's own WXUT 88.3 FM in Toledo, a college-run station, a university student-run station. And Buck Geno can be followed on Twitter at BuckGeno III. Triple I's in Roman numerals. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Well, it's a busy week for me as football season is upon us, and I know Buck has been busy as well, as it's getting to be that time of the year where we're going to have a lot going on. Me from an officiating standpoint, and also as the social media director and public address man at Dundee High School. I know Buck is going to be doing play-by-play. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually have the color again this year on ESPN 96.1's Game of the Week. And we'll be starting that next week, Thursday. And it seemed like just yesterday we were exiting Ford Field. And it's already football season again, but it's great. It's a great time of year. And looking forward to it. And also checking out you guys on the broadcasts of your respective high school coverage as well.
All right. So why don't we get started right now? We're going to preview the Michigan Wolverines, the Michigan State Spartans, and the Detroit Lions. We almost forgot to add that those guys in there, but it's preseason. I think we should wait until like later in the preseason to preview the Lions. We can do a bit of a split. Yeah, this is actually a football in the Mitten Preview, so we're we'll just add some Lions in there and preview that.
There was a little bit of news over the weekend after the Indianapolis game, so we can definitely dive into that a little bit.
Yep, two devastating key injuries, which appear to be partially identical. But starting with college football, let me pull out the sound bites just 1 second here.
Touchdown, Michigan!
The Michigan Wolverines get Wilton Speight back for his senior year, but they don't have Jabril Peppers. They are coming off the heels of a very controversial loss at OSU, but also coming off. I think I can't remember. Was it the Orange Bowl that they played the Florida State Seminoles?
Yeah, they played Florida State and lost by a single point.
Very close, very close. Now they had a good season, but they actually the two of the last three games they lost at Iowa and they lost at Ohio State. And like Mike Valenti pointed out and Jeff Rieger pointed out, Valenti pointed out on 97 won the ticket when in what once was Valenti and Foster when Rieger filled in. Valenti pointed out that the Wolverines offense turned the ball over in the fourth quarter three times in critical spots, which gave the Buckeyes 14 points to force overtime, and the Wolverines gained only 5 yards in that fourth quarter, and that's what got them to these overtime periods. It should not have happened before. And Jim Harbaugh, after that fourth and one spot, did not call a timeout when he had one timeout left, and he decided to act like a child and let the game play on its own. And while Michigan's defense, like Ed Smith pointed out, was gassed, tired, there was a reason why Jim Harbaugh should have called a timeout.
Yeah, and then of course everyone else will point to a moment in the game where he decides to throw all his papers onto the field, and he also ended up earning an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which put Ohio State in scoring position. And late in the game,
Hold on a second. Hey, Buck, this driving of yours is masking the audio here. Yeah, it's Wait, we apologize for that, folks, but we'll try to get back. Oh, jeez. Yeah, Buck's gonna have to leave his messenger phone off for a little bit.
Sounds like he was driving with his windows down.
Yeah, this is not good. That's not good audio quality.
I mean, look, I mean, not to get completely off the rails here, but I know I've called you when I've been on the road before, and I've made sure to at least turn anything off that's going to provide extra noise. So hopefully Buck's got everything figured out on his end.
Yeah, turned off that pesky Bluetooth. But to jump back in, the Ohio State game, people will make a lot of that game, but I think that really the season got away from Michigan in that game at Iowa City. Michigan traditionally has not played well in games at Iowa. It's a historically snake-bitten venue for them, if you will, and they played really down to what Iowa was capable of in that game, and they ended up losing the game on a last-second field goal. And if you go through the first 2 years of Jim Harbaugh's coaching, that's a trend that in the losses has been a considerable trend, and that's playing to the level of the opponent. Now, in the first half, mainly the first quarter and into the second, Michigan dominated Ohio State on both sides of the ball and really was in control. And I feel like they let Ohio State off the map a little bit. Ohio State's a great football team, and they have a great coach, but I feel that Michigan probably let them off the mat a little bit. And as the third quarter progressed after halftime, you could see that Michigan, the pressure that they had, and your point about being gassed at the end of the game, well, that had to do with the fact that their offense really didn't control. There was one thing they didn't control was the time of possession. Michigan did not have lengthy possessions, save for one drive in the first half. And that really took a toll on the Michigan defense. And as the game wore on, the defense just continued to grind down under the pressure of the Ohio State offense. J.T. Barrett found his range, so to speak, throwing the football. In the first half, he was just brutal. And in the second half, they really started to click on offense, did the Buckeyes, and pressing into overtime. Everybody wants to make a big deal about the spot, and everybody wants to make a big deal about the timeout or not taking a timeout. But Ohio State, to that point, really was in the driver's seat. Now, we'll never know had they called the timeout if they would have been able to stop the Buckeyes on the ensuing play. But we do know that Ohio State was really driving that game at that point. Michigan was kind of holding on, whereas in the first half, they were the ones controlling the tempo. They were the ones that were really dictating what was going on, most of it through the defensive side of the football, but still able to move the ball effectively enough to give their defense a little bit of rest. But Wilton Speight didn't play a good game. He was hurt, threw a couple of key interceptions, one that was returned for a touchdown and another one that was almost returned for a touchdown. So giving the Ohio State Buckeyes points that they really didn't have to work for. I think that if you look at the overall season for Michigan, they came out flat in the Orange Bowl. The Jabril Peppers injury kind of took them by surprise and probably deflated that locker room. Then Jake Butt getting hurt during the game, tearing his knee up, and that's a tough break to take as well. And really throughout the season, Michigan had stayed relatively healthy. Wilton Spade's shoulder injury only took him out for the one game, and that was the Indiana game where John O'Korn played in. The rest of the time, they really avoided major injury until the bowl season. So, that said, I think that for Michigan, when we were talking about previewing them for the upcoming season, I would say that the number one concern of theirs is going to be the depth, because they have only 5 returning starters coming back. And Jim Harbaugh is not one to allow his team to get complacent. So even though there's only 5 returning starters, he's still talking about a quarterback battle, even though Wilton Spade's the incumbent starter, and also trying to figure out who's going to run the football. They have a stable of highly talented running backs. So when you're looking at Michigan, it's not going to be the talent. It's not going to be the guys that are on the field. It's going to be the strategy and what they're able to do in pressure situations. Because the first 2 seasons of Jim Harbaugh's reign, he's taken them to heights that they haven't seen in a while. But they've also failed in some big spots. And I think that for Jim Harbaugh's team to ascend to the next level, that is to start competing for championships, to start being in the conversation for how division titles in the conference at least, they're going to have to win some fourth quarters. And they're going to have to play consistent 60-minute football games. And I think they still really haven't been able to do that over the course of the first 2 seasons of Jim Harbaugh. Now, granted, there are some reasons behind that other than coaching decisions or players. I mean, there's other things that have gone on with that, but they really need to have complete efforts against the teams that are going to be gunning for them in not only the Big Ten, but nationally. I think the big statement that they can make is the opening game against Florida in Arlington, Texas. even though Florida's going to be without a couple of their weapons on either side of the ball, still a very good football team. And it's going to be a test for Michigan to play that type of team from the get-go, because Florida, even though they'll have a couple of guys out due to suspension, still is going to have plenty of speed, plenty of athleticism that the Michigan Wolverines are going to have to deal with. And it's very hard to win a national championship if you're starting out 0-1. So it starts right on September 2nd and doesn't stop until November 30th against Ohio State. So it's going to be a tough road, but that's the one thing I see here as we dive into Michigan Wolverines a little bit. It's going to be how they perform down the stretch in the third and the fourth quarters and against adversity, because they haven't shrunk from it, but they haven't succeeded at it either.
Well, to kind of go off your points, Buck, last year the big thing was Michigan didn't beat anybody away from their comfortable little home with a pulse, because the only two teams they beat on the road were my beloved deadbeat Spartans and the biggest dumpster fire in the Big Ten and Rutgers. And plus, you have to remember that against Iowa and Ohio State, they did not get a single first down in the fourth quarter. And you mentioned they've got to be able to move the ball late in games and close them out. But also this year, you mentioned that Florida game. It's going to be a challenge. Yeah, I know Florida's going to be without Antonio Callaway.
And six other players.
Yeah.
They've been all seven have been suspended, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, Callaway is the most significant loss. But the big difference is people say, well, they destroyed Florida when they played a bowl game a couple of years ago. That game, Buck, if you'll remember, Florida's quarterback, his name is, I think it was Treon Harris. He was the absolute definition of hot garbage. I have seen high school quarterbacks in my area throw the ball better. In fact, I didn't even get to watch that game, but I know my dad did. And he later told me that he was watching, and he thought Treon Harris was atrocious. And Florida's quarterback situation is, I would say, there's more quality there, but who ends up taking the starting job? Will it be Luke Del Rio or Malik Zaire? I mean, those I think are better options. But I would say even with suspended players, I kind of view that game as somewhat of a toss-up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I definitely think it is a must-win if Michigan wants to put themselves in the national title picture. But also, they have road games at Penn State, Penn State could be the top team in the East, depending on who you talk to, them or Ohio State. Plus, they got to go to Wisconsin, which is a place that they haven't won since the early 2000s. And still got to play Ohio State, who they haven't managed to beat since that year where Luke Fickell was the head coach.
By the way, the last time Michigan beat Ohio State was at Michigan Stadium back in 2011.
Yes. Yeah, that was when. Yeah, that was the year when Jim Tressel had resigned in the summer because of players exchanging memorabilia for tattoos. Luke Fickell has coached the team, and that Ohio State team, they seemingly were having an identity crisis. There were games where they actually looked decent. You see the game against Wisconsin where they beat them, and even against Michigan too, where they actually put up a fight. And then there were games that they looked like they couldn't even do anything on offense. See a game against Miami, a game against Michigan State, where they allowed 9 sacks in that game, and that was also the year they almost lost to Toledo, of all teams.
Man. By the way, we have an update on the Tigers. Rugnet Odor scored on a balk by Joe Jimenez. And Joe Jimenez just made it 6-3 Rangers with that balk right before the 7th inning came to an end.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that's an insurance run that our tanking process will take tonight. Now that let's see that the Rangers bullpen hangs on for them.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, honestly, what I see from Michigan this year, I think the realistic expectation is they're looking at possibly a 9-3 season. And given who they lost to the NFL, and as Buck mentioned, the lack of depth that they have. Now, they're not really going to be able to use that as a crutch because Harbaugh's brought in so many talented recruits. But at the end of the day, are those guys going to step up and fill those roles in, or are they going to, as we like to say on AFR, poop a hammer and struggle? That to me is the big question, and I think that could ultimately spell the difference between Michigan being at the same table with Penn State and Ohio State and being in the thick of the race for the East and ending up finishing 8-4, 9-3, and ending up falling short again. And that's when I think a lot of the fan base in Ann Arbor is going to start growing restless. Because, I mean, there's going to be people that are going to say, hey, you got to give them time for this, that, and the other. Look, I think that's complete bullshit. Because you look at what Harbaugh did his first year and what he's done everywhere else. You can't use those excuses of him needing 5 years. I mean, granted, he ended up getting Michigan to 10 wins in both years that he was there. 20-6 record. But still hasn't gotten over the hump yet. Still hasn't won a division. Still hasn't won a Big Ten championship. So, now, and let me just clarify by saying, if he doesn't get to Indy this year, is he going to get canned? No, absolutely not. I think anyone who says that he's going to be gone is stupid. But I definitely think that he'll be feeling the heat from fans and players saying, oh, look, yeah, a few years ago we were bad. But this guy came in with a proven track record. When are we going to see some results here? Because everyone comes in saying, oh, he's going to dethrone Urban Meyer. He's going to dethrone Nick Saban. Well, you want to see him do that, there's got to be some results first.
Well, and not only the results, but he also has to have a little bit of time. I mean, when you look at the teams that he took over before, looking at Stanford, we'll just use the college ranks because I really don't think there's any equality between his performance with the 49ers and anything he's going to do in college. So look at first the Stanford Cardinal, where he came to that school and they were brutal. I mean, they had nothing. And he got a little bit of luck because Walt Harris had recruited Andrew Luck. Many people forget that because they talk about how great Jim Harbaugh was in making Andrew Luck a pro quarterback. Jim Harbaugh didn't recruit him. Walt Harris did before he got fired. And so Jim Harbaugh got a little bit of a present from the outgoing coach. And to that point, they still were not good. He was able to build them in a very short time. The other thing that people don't really take a look at is how bad the Pac-12 was at that point, because there wasn't a lot of top-to-bottom depth there. And that said, Jim Harbaugh built that program up to a certain level, which was close but not to the top. And he was able to do the same thing at Division I San Diego. where he took a team that was bereft of any talent or of hope, for that matter, and took them to a very successful regular season. The one thing on the resume that Jim Harbaugh does not have in the college ranks is a considerable bowl win or a conference title, because he doesn't have those yet. And I think that people for the Michigan fans that talk about how great Jim Harbaugh is, well, he was better than what you had before, which it wasn't really hard. It's at a very high bar. But you're right, Frank. I mean, we're getting to year 3. He is 0-2 against Ohio State, and Ohio State is loaded this year just as they always are. And he's going to have to beat them. He's going to have to beat a Florida team in the opener with a very young squad as far as experience goes. And he's going to have to also beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. He's going to have to beat he's going to have to beat Minnesota, which, again, when you talk about teams on the upswing, for certain, one of those teams is Minnesota with the hiring of P.J. Fleck. So if you look at the schedule, it's very light to start out. I mean, Florida, obviously the opener, and then Cincinnati with Coach, I believe, I don't know exactly, I know it was, I forget who the new coach is there. But anyway, you have Cincinnati coming in. And then you have Air Force, which is always a tough game because Air Force plays a different style of football than most of any Division I team. So that's always a tough preparation. Then they go to Purdue to play a team that's probably not going to be very good. And then they have Michigan State at home. And those first 5 games, there's 2 teams in there that they really want to beat, which is Florida and Michigan State. But then comes on the back end of the schedule, that really starts the rocky path down the hill, so to speak. They have Indiana, which should be a win for them. And then you have Penn State at Penn State, which is going to be a very tough game for them. They come back to play Rutgers at home, which they should mop the floor with Rutgers. And then they have Minnesota, who's going to be an intriguing team with P.J. Fleck at the helm, so they can't relax their guard there. Then they'll travel to Maryland to play D.J. Durkin in his second year, and I think that they should win that game relatively handily. But then they travel to Wisconsin and take on Wisconsin, and then their season finale, as far as the regular season goes, is against Ohio State. So the back half of the schedule really loaded down with 4 games, and including Minnesota in there, 4 games that are potential losses. Now, I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but those are really rough games, especially coming right after each other. You have Penn State, then you have Rutgers, which is basically a bye week, and then you have the Minnesota game at home. Then you get to go to Maryland, and probably, that game will probably be one of those 27-10 or 27-17 games where people think they should blow them out, but they're not really going to try that hard because they know that they have the last 2 games coming up the regular season are going to be grueling. They're at Wisconsin at Camp Randall Stadium, and then they're at they're playing Ohio State at the Big House. So that's a brutal back half of the schedule. And for Jim Harbaugh to be considered a success, I really think that the Big Ten championship game has to be, it's always going to be their goal, but it has to be something that, I'm not saying they have to make it, but it has to be something that is their focus. Because if they go 9-3 or 10-2 again and lose to Ohio State, it's going to get ugly. And you're going to have people that are going to be dissatisfied with Jim Harbaugh. You're going to have people that are dissatisfied with the quote-unquote path of the program. And for what it's worth, 10-2 used to be normal at Michigan. And I think that a lot of Michigan fans have lost that focus ever since Lloyd Carr left. They just haven't regained it because there's other teams that are just as good or better than Michigan. And it's not the same anymore. And I think that for a lot of people, that they don't understand that.
Yeah. The Michigan Wolverines, good thing they play the Spartans and the Buckeyes at Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor. But they do play at Wisconsin on November 18th. They also got Minnesota at home. It's going to be an all-easy schedule, but they're going to have to go through the Buckeyes at the end to that game starts at noon on November 25th on Fox National Broadcast.
Yeah, well, the road always goes through Ohio State for Michigan. That's just how
the
it
game
goes in college football. But
closer.
there's a lot of other games that are coming up in that schedule as well. Like I said, the back half is just loaded, and they're going to have to be playing their best football through that 6-game stretch. Otherwise, it's going to get a little bit ugly in A squared, and it's not going to be really anybody's fault. It's just going to be the fact that people expect Jim Harbaugh to come in and start going 12-0 and clean everybody's clock, and that's just not a realistic expectation. I mean, I would like him to beat Ohio State. I think as a Michigan fan, that's probably your number one goal, is to beat Ohio State. I think it used to be higher on their list than the Rose Bowl was to beat Ohio State. And I don't know how things have changed, but that said, there's plenty of other teams in there competitive with them in the Big Ten. Wisconsin is one, Minnesota is another, and Penn State as well. Those are going to be tough games, and I think that for Michigan to be considered a success, that I think 11-1 would be something that people would actually get behind, and that's going to be a tough step.
I'm thinking 9-3 or 10-2. That would be my prediction.
Oh, don't believe me. I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1. I'm just saying that for them to be considered a success, 11-1 with a win over Ohio State is probably the bare minimum for them to be really considered to be making progress.
Yeah, it is a good process step. Believe me, that's going to be a good step for Jim Harbaugh and company to take. The only thing is they have to find ways to overcome adversity. They have to stop complaining about the officials. I know the Big Ten officials. I know they're pretty bad, but that's just something that each team has to overcome. You got to look at the scoreboard, look at how many timeouts you have. You got to use your brains. Do what you need to do. Look at how tired your players are. In that case, look at every high leverage situation and stuff like that. So your prediction is 11, or the fans' prediction actually.
My prediction is 10-2.
Me too.
11-1 is where I think 11-1 is where I think they need to be for people to still get behind what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been saying 9-3. I mean, I think they will have to steal a game against either Ohio State, Wisconsin, Florida, or Penn State in order to do that, though.
Mm-hmm. So that's the Michigan Wolverines. Now we need to preview the Michigan State Spartans.
Touchdown, MSU!
Like we mentioned before, let's go to Michigan. But an article before we get to the schedule by Jordan Manigo at Spartan Avenue via Fansided of SI.com. Headlines: Michigan State football must get hot early before 2017 Big Ten play. They start the season against Bowling Green, Western Michigan, and Notre Dame. This is where the schedule blends in. Then they open the Big Ten schedule against the Iowa Hawkeyes. And the Spartans, the last few years, have had trouble. The last couple meetings have had trouble with the Iowa Hawkeyes. And they are coming off an obviously horrific, I apologize for that. An obviously horrific 3-9 season from last year to 2016. And it all started when the Wisconsin Badgers came into East Lansing and demolished the Spartans 30-6. 30-6.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I spent the day refereeing youth football. That day, I was actually out in Lenawee County all day, working 3 games, and glad I avoided watching that disaster.
Yeah, I was listening to it on my headphones when I was working at Little Caesars. I no longer work there. I work at Ruby Tuesday now. But the point for all this is simple. The Spartans, according to Jordan Manigo, must find consistency and chemistry early, and that's the point that Jordan is trying to make. And we have a scoring update. Adrian Beltre just opened yet another Rangers rally with an RBI double, making it 7-3, and now it's 9-3 with a 2-run single by Mike Napoli.
Another Tiger killer.
Hey, that's what we need, right?
Yeah, this is the one time where you wish that all the Tiger killers of past and present, Mike Napoli, Joe Creedy, Jim Thome, Michael Kadayer, Denard Span, Joe Mauer, all those guys, Nelson Cruz, could all be in a lineup at once.
Yeah, but Jim Thome is already retired. He's over the hill.
So is Joe Creedy as well.
Yeah.
And Carlos Quentin. I was just rattling off a list of guys who seemingly would look like Sosa and McGuire against the Tigers.
But back to the Michigan State Spartans here, as Buck's a little busy here with other matters to attend to, but he'll be back sometime a bit later in this podcast here. But looking at the entire Spartan schedule, yes, they play Bowling Green, Western Michigan, and Notre Dame. They play Notre Dame at home September 23rd at 8 o'clock on Fox. And that is on a Saturday. Spartans have a bye week between the Broncos and the Irish. Just 3 non-conference weeks, and then they host the Iowa Hawkeyes before they go on the road to Ann Arbor and play the Wolverines. They played 2 consecutive Big Ten road games at Michigan and then at the Minnesota Golden Gophers at TCF Bank Stadium. Then they're back home against the Indiana Hoosiers on homecoming on October 21st. Then they go back on the road to Ryan Field in Evanston, Illinois on the ESPN networks and take on the Northwestern Wildcats as the Rangers now have the bases loaded for Delino to Shields. Then they return home to East Lansing November 4th to begin the month of November and play the Penn State Nittany Lions. Then they're at Ohio State. Last time they played there, they won on a Michael Geiger field goal as time expired that broke the 14-14 tie. And it was almost an easy cheap shot, but Geiger, of course, had the accuracy. No doubt, he was a great kicker.
Yeah, and that was also Ohio State's first Big Ten regular season loss with Urban Meyer at the helm.
Oh boy! And the Spartans, that was the part of the Spartans' almost undefeated season. They still won the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, I was actually driving home from Novi because it snowed real bad in this area that weekend. And I'm just driving home real slow on M14 listening to that game, and I was really surprised at how close it was. And then I'm driving along, I hear Geiger line up to kick the field goal, and I was thinking, please make it, and he made it, and let's just say that I had no voice left.
Yeah, when you cheered for that field goal, of course. And then the last two games, home against Maryland and then at Rutgers. Those are two easy games that the Spartans should win. Depending how bad those two teams were the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm hoping that Michigan State does turn it around. But, I mean, I'm doing so with tempered expectations. Was the 3-9 season just a fluke, or are things really coming apart at the seams? Now, keep in mind, there have been certain toxic individuals who have been shown the door, and I think that is a good thing. But there's also guys who have to step up in new roles. I mean, it sounds like Brian Lewerke is the guy at quarterback. Depending who you talk to, there are people who say that if he would have played the rest of the regular season, that he'd probably finish 5-7, maybe 6-6. Who knows? But hindsight's 20/20. L.J. Scott is one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. There's no disputing that. So running the ball won't be an issue. Though receivers, they've got I actually went to their spring game. Named Tristan Jackson, I think is going to be solid. And there's going to be other guys who are going to have to step up as well. And plus the offensive line's got to be better. There are some good. Brian Allen, I think, is a solid center. Cole Jones will be really solid at tackle. And on the defensive side of the ball, that's still kind of interesting because their defensive line did lose a couple of guys. So we'll see who ends up contributing there. And also, secondary was young, but I think there's some experience that comes back. And plus, looking at the schedule, I think 3-0 is definitely doable in the non-conference side of it. At 2-1, I think anything less than 2-1, and then I think there's going to be problems because BG is about a middle-of-the-road team in the MAC least, not MAC East, MAC least division. And Western Michigan lost a ton of talent to the NFL. Plus, they have a new coach.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame is, I don't think any coach in America is on a hotter seat than Brian Kelly. He's gone from, in his tenure in 2012, playing for a national championship. Now he's dropped to 4-8 from last year, and plenty of bad losses. Because plus, they've lost Deshaun Kaiser to the NFL. So, I honestly think that that's a winnable game. Big Ten play, that's where it gets tricky. Iowa, I mean, if that game was in Iowa City, I would say Iowa probably wins it. But they get them in East Lansing, it's definitely winnable. I mean, looking at the rest of the Big Ten slate, I'm having a hard time seeing Michigan State win at Michigan and at Ohio State, and probably even against Penn State, and even at Northwestern. So I could see them going 7-5, 8-4, but not much above that.
I'm predicting a 2-1 start. It's going to take some time for the Spartans chemistry to come together. But I would say I'm going to predict the Spartans to go 9-3 in the regular season, and Jason and Shin-Soo Choo just recently made it 10-3 before the 8th inning just got over with this with an RBI single. Now Jason Grilli, a former Tiger, is the new pitcher for the Texas Rangers.
And speaking of the Tigers, I just saw a tweet from Ryan Schuling said that Ruggiero Odor stole home against the Tigers. Why is this 0% surprising against a Brad Ausmus managed team? I'm definitely not surprised.
Right, but I read an article from Evan Woodbury on MLive.com on Brad Ausmus actually criticizing Nick Castellanos' base running error, this horrible base running mistake. Ausmus said he does his best to try to defend all of his players, but he can't defend that. He didn't know what was going on what was going through Nick's mind is Victor Martinez just hit a home run to make it 10-4. But that's the first ever time that Brad Ausmus actually criticized one of his players in his 4-year tenure as Tigers manager.
Well, my best guess is he's probably getting pissed off with the results too. And I can't say I blame him for it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's gonna be the one who's gonna end up taking the fall for it.
Yeah.
At least he's.
All that being said, if you sum it all up, Brad Ausmus may have to resign and save himself the embarrassment that he may soon face. Think about that. Can you imagine how Brad Ausmus feels about that? He also had some concern about Bruce Rondon's performance on Sunday afternoon when the Twins scored 2 on him in the late innings in that 6-4 loss. Brad Ausmus, I think, is starting to have a little bit of a sense of urgency. It doesn't mean anything yet, but this quite amazes me here. How some things turn around.
Yeah, but it's going to be too little, too late.
Yeah, it is. Yep. I guess it goes to show you that Brad Ausmus in totality has had enough.
Well, guess he's not. Well, hey, I guess he's not like that uncle that we may or may not have had who let you get away with stuff. If mom and dad found out you did it, you would have gotten the stick taken to you.
Mm-hmm. So my prediction is 9-3 for the Spartans in the regular season. I just had to look over the schedule a bit and think it over. The Spartans are going to have to try to slowly but surely, year by year, climb back to the top. And then they'll be great again, just like back in 2015. They still have to keep pursuing that national championship.
You're absolutely right.
All right, so that's the Spartans. Now we touch on the Lions.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
The Lions won 24-10 easily over the Indianapolis Colts. They jumped out to a 24-3 lead. Stafford throws only one interception in only one drive. And then Jake Rudock, showing how good he usually is as a backup quarterback, threw 2 touchdowns to Kenny Golladay. And fans are raving about Kenny Golladay, next future Hall of Fame wide receiver. I mean, come on.
Yeah, power down for a minute. I mean, look. He's performed well in training camp and in exhibition play, but that stuff doesn't mean jack shit. If he goes out in week 1 of the regular season, or even in the first 2 weeks, and looks like the second coming of Calvin Johnson, then okay, maybe I'll give you the get him a jacket and a bust in Canton. But let's power down for a minute. I'm not ready to ride the hype train just yet. Do I want him to be successful? Absolutely. But come on, let him put some results up first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got an article from Rob Otto. His first article just today on Detroit Sports Nation. He listed this. His article highlights Lions fans tap the brakes on the Kenny Golladay hype train, and then he touches on the quote future Hall of Famers, how they fall off the face of the earth. For example, in 2016 in the preseason, those are preseason future Hall of Famers, mind you. Jace Billingsley, Zach Zenner in 2015 when he suffered a season-long injury. Nate Freese when he absolutely choked and gagged and puked all over the gridiron everywhere in the NFL before the Lions signed Matt Prater from the Denver Broncos. That's in 2014. And finally, Kickalicious Havard Rugland in 2013. But Rugland did not choke. He was more than just an NFL kicker. The Lions decided to cut him. And that was under the Jim Schwartz era. And they say he needs to be more consistent. That's not true. He already has been consistent. He knows how to kick the ball to the uprights. He needed nothing more. He had what it took to kick long field goals, even from over 60 yards out. That's just ineptitude from the Lions organization. And Rob Otto's not even counting him out. Still not counting him out. He never did. Made all 3 field goals he attempted, including a 50-yarder. Yeah, I wouldn't say 60 plus yet. He said this guy has a shot in the NFL, so he might as well get it with the Lions. And what happened? After getting cut by the Lions falsely, he only had one other team even give him a look. He has never attempted to kick in a real NFL game because the Lions, just like any other NFL organization, never gave Havard Rugland a chance to kick in a real NFL regular season game. That is despicable of this awful NFL franchise that has won only one playoff game in 1957 and the rest of the NFL combined. It just makes no sense to me. I'd say to all NFL teams, give Havard Kickalicious Rugland a chance.
Well, what's he doing right now?
I have no clue. But that's all we know at the moment for Kickalicious. But the Lions season, taking a look at their schedule,
I know they play the Jets.
The Jets next, yep. 2 consecutive home games in the preseason. August 19th, that's on a Saturday. August 25th on Friday. 7:30 against the Jets, 7 o'clock against the Patriots, and then August 31st on a Thursday at 7. They're in Buffalo. And then they open the season at home against the Arizona Cardinals on September 10th on Fox. Then they have a Monday night football game on ESPN in the Meadowlands against the New York Giants on September 18th. They're back home against the Falcons on the 24th. They're at the Minnesota Vikings at the new US Bank Stadium October 1st at 1. As the Rangers beat the Tigers 10-4, thankfully. The last time the Lions played there, they beat the Vikings 22-16 in overtime.
Yeah, I'll say it right now. Those first 4 games are going to be tough. Because I can't remember the last time they beat Arizona. You got to go to the Meadowlands to play the Giants on Monday Night Football. Plus, you got to play the Atlanta Falcons, who should have won the Super Bowl had they not choked on applesauce. And then the Vikings, who I think granted, I don't really like their quarterback play, but they upgraded their offensive line, and I think Dalvin Cook is going to end up winning Rookie of the Year in the NFL. So, that opening stretch of the season is brutal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. The Lions do have a tough schedule. Then they got the Panthers, the Saints, the Steelers, and the Packers at Lambeau, the Browns, the Bears at Soldier Field, the Vikings at home, the Ravens and the Buccaneers on the road, the Bears at home, the Bengals in Cincinnati, and then the Packers at Ford Field. Just like last season, they end the regular season at Ford Field against the Green Bay Packers. That was a game where the Lions and Packers battled it out for the NFC North title, and the Packers ended up winning.
Yeah. But I still think Green Bay ends up winning the division. Until somebody can step up and show that they can be dethroned and beaten I'll still take Green Bay
Mm-hmm.
as the division champ.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Lions may finish either second or third. Going to have to come down. That battle for second place might have to come between the Lions and Vikings. Of course, the Bears still a pretty awful team as far as we're concerned.
Well, we can agree on that.
Mm-hmm. So, Rangers and Tigers are in the books.
That one is long gone.
And so is this football preview in 2017 for the Wolverines, Spartans, and Lions.
Yep, good football talk tonight.
Yep. Unfortunately for Buck Geno, he could not join us for the rest of the party. But hey, it was we tried grinding it out in this football preview, and we pulled it out. So thanks for your help, Frank. I also like to thank Buck Geno for our help. And before we sign off, I'd like to tell you that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast is in search of local advertising sponsors and boosting our podcast posts on our Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth. Anyone interested in advertising and sponsoring our podcast, contact Sports Radio Detroit in the contact section on their website. Follow them at Sports Radio DET, at Sports Radio Det. There's also an option of emailing its owner, Roger Castillo, at rojcast81@gmail.com. Also like their Facebook page, Sports Radio Detroit. Listen to their podcasts on iTunes and Podbean, including ours. And I'm Taylor Phillips for Frank Vajcner and Buck Geno. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.